Hello everybody, I am Heidi and you are watching Heidi Creates. I hope everyone is doing well. The last couple of weeks have actually been pretty crazy for me. You know how different people come in and out of your life at different times. They're important to your life and life keeps going. You fall out of touch with those people and you move away, just different reasons, whatever they are. Well, three people that have been a part of my life through different times of my life, and just in the last less than 2 weeks, three of these women have passed away. I was just feeling kind of weepy about this. So, and I don't want to turn this into some kind of blog or anything, and I guess I'm kind of doing that, but just made me reflect a little bit, and I think the reason why it really affected me, just not only because those people meant something to me, but also because each of those people represented somebody in my life. One woman, represents my mother. My mother is still alive and so happy to have her. And I don't look forward to the day when I will lose my mother. And another young woman was my age, so it's almost, you are very aware of your own mortality. And then of course the other one was a young woman who was my daughter's age. It's tough, death is hard. 2020 has been a weird year. I think on top of everything, it was just definitely a time of reflection. Anyway, let's get past that, and I just hope that by coming to my channel and watching the tutorials that I do, that you have fun when you come here, and when you leave here that you feel good and you're glad you came. Today's tutorial is going to be very short. I had a few people ask me about, once you've made a quilt or a quilt sampler and you finished it, but you didn't put the pocket, on the back, the sleeve on the back, how would you put that on? If you decide, oh, I want to hang that up, how would I put that on now that I finished the quilt? I'll just show you one way today and how I do that. Also, I wanted to give you a quick show of the quilt that I worked on for last week's video. Got that one all finished, so I will give you a quick little shot of that here. Maybe if I move over just a little bit, I can give you a quick shot of that up here in the corner. We'll see if that works. I'll also put a link up above too to that video if you're interested and have not seen it already, how to make the curvy checkerboard pattern. Let's go ahead and get started with today's video. Here we have a little quilt sampler, and it does not have a hanging sleeve on the back. So typically what I do when I make a sleeve is I measure the distance across the top. I measure end to end, which this is 14.5 inches from end to end. And I'll show you there, 14.5 inches right there. So typically what I do, I like to do 2 sleeves because I like to have a space in between that, so when the wood that goes through the sleeves is exposed in the middle, it makes just a perfect middle hanger, and that way there's no twine, no rope, nothing else involved in hanging this, just your screw or nail in the wall. So I'm going to make 2 sleeves. Measure the distance across, and this is 14.5 inches. I take 1 inch off from that, which would make 13.5 inches. I go ahead and cut my sleeve piece at 13.5 inches by 4 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Actually, I had a piece of scrap that matches the back of the quilt, and it's 3.5 inches instead of the 4 inches, which is going to be fine because I use a pretty narrow piece of wood for the hanger. So once you have your piece cut to the length and the width that you want, then you would want to cut it in half. So I'm just going to fold this in half real quick. Mark the middle. I'll just go ahead and cut it right in that line that I made. At this point, it's time to hem the short ends. So I'm going to turn it over about 3/8 of an inch, fold it over once, and then a second time. and then go ahead and stitch across those. So I'm going to do that to all 4 short ends of these 2 pieces. What I'm going to do next, now that I have the 2 short ends hemmed, is I'm actually going to put the wrong sides together. And I'm going to stitch this long edge. Because I made this 3.5 inches instead of the 4 inches that I normally do, I'm going to do a scant 1/8 of an inch. But I would normally just do like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I did the 1/8 inch seam. So what I'm going to do now with these 2 pieces is I want to lay them across the stitch line that I can see that sews the binding on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these 2 pieces on my quilt, and what I like to do is I measure in about 1/2 inch or so. That's going to leave about 2 inches in the center, which is plenty of room for hanging. I'm going to line up that raw edge with the binding edge and pin the 2 together. I'll go ahead and pin the other one on as well. I will show you how I'm going to stitch that. I have both of those pinned on. So what we're going to do, and you know, if you need more pins, go ahead and stick, you know, however many you feel comfortable with. Just remember where those pins are, and you can actually transfer that to the front if you need to once you have these in place. I'm going to flip this over because this is the side that we're going to be sewing on, is the front side. What we're going to be doing is actually stitching right in the ditch between the binding and the border of this sample quilt. And I'm just going to continue all the way down right in the ditch until I've sewn across both of these sleeves. And I'll come back after that. I did want to point out that I have a foot from my machine that actually helps with stitching in the ditch. It has this little red piece right here that just rides. You can adjust it with the little screw here, and it rides right in the ditch, and then you just line your needle up with that particular with the ditch, and you get really great success with stitching in the ditch. I have these sewn on, so flip them over, and yep, I caught all the edges. It looks good. So basically all we have to do now is just bring those down. Has a nice finished edge, and you're going to do like you did before with your other sleeves if you've done this before, and that is you're going to hand sew the rest of the sleeve down, bringing this down over that stitched edge. You don't see any raw edges, and by closing it up, you know, I do like to clip all tiny little threads, and hand sewing this down, and it looks perfect. It has a really nice look. It doesn't look like it's an added or a second thought. We're very purposeful in how you put it on. So I will go ahead and hand stitch that down and then come back and show you what it looks like. Just in case you don't know how to sew this on, I will show you how I do it. I'm coming out of the sleeve right here on the edge. I go down into the quilt, just staying in the back layer, don't go through the front at all, and then just come down, you know, 3/8 or 1/2 inch or so away from where you went in the last time, and come up in the edge there. I do have a bent needle, but this needle is so nice and sharp, but the last time I used it, I was trying to go through something pretty thick and I ended up bending it. But yeah, this stitch works out really nice because it really does come out pretty much invisible. You can't see the stitch. So if you've never done it before, not sure how, well, this is how I do it. I got both of the sleeves sewn on, and they look great front and back. You can't tell that it was an afterthought. And just in case you haven't seen my other video on how to finish a quilt, I get these particular sticks at Home Depot in the lumber department, back with other trims and stuff like that. I mean, they have these in oak and pine. This is actually a little too small for this particular one, but I just had it real handy to show it to you. I think also Michael's sells some flat dowels like this, and I like the flat ones versus the round ones, just because it's easier for, you know, for it to rest on a screw or a nail, whatever it is that you decide to put in the wall. But this makes a great sleeve for hanging your quilts, and I hope that was helpful. I hope everyone is staying healthy and happy, and take some time to embrace the ones you love. And until next week, have a great one. Bye for now.